name is Carlin Raffi, and I'm just here to do some technical assistance as I can. And I guess, Vanessa, why don't you go ahead and get us started on the webinar?
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are watching us from. I am Vanessa da Silva. I am an extension specialist at the University of Arizona, and I coordinate our diabetes prevention program, and I am part of our national working group for cooperative extension NDPP program implementers. Our webinar today is part of a series, so it's number 2 of this series that when you signed up for, you might have seen the third one is coming up next month, 2 months from now. Today's webinar is best practices for affecting behavior change in the National DPP participants. A brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. I'll first introduce our group, our interest group, the CE NDPP interest group. Then we will go over best practices for behavioral change in NDPP participants, and this part we'll have 2 presenters who are from 2 different cooperative extension programs, fully recognized by the CDC, have a lot of experience with the DPP, and they will talk to us about their personal experience and what has helped them with participant outcomes and getting your participants to meet their behavior changes that they desire. The third thing we'll be covering are the resources that the CDC has put out to increase engagement and retention. They have a series of tools, and we have someone from the CDC today to help us go over those. And in the end, we will have time for a Q&A. Just before we start, a couple of items for housekeeping. Your camera and audio have been turned off just because there are a lot of people on the webinar. So if you have questions, use the chat box, please, for those, and Carly and I will be monitoring those. And this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on our website, as all of our previous webinars are also. Our website link is right there, cedppextension.org. And today's presenters are, here we have beautiful pictures of all of our presenters. We have Zena Edwards from Washington State University Extension. We have Nikki Johnson from North Dakota State University Extension and University of Minnesota Extension, so an interesting partnership there. And we have Judith McDivitt from the CDC's Division of Diabetes Translation. Our interest group started in 2016. It started with 7 southern states. They got together with the goal of increasing the number of cooperative extension services that are fully recognized by the CDC as national providers of the DPP. And then slowly what happened was, after a couple years, others started hearing about them, myself included, and asked to join, so it became a national interest group. Another of the goals is to strengthen our capacity to impact diabetes prevalence in the United States. So what we want to do with our interest group is we strongly believe that cooperative extension is ideally suited to disseminate the NDPP. We think that it is a perfect match, and we want to help each other be successful as cooperative extension services implementing the NDPP. We are now, as I said, over 15 states. Just yesterday, I was on the phone with somebody from New Jersey, so they will soon be starting their DPP program. So I took the liberty of adding them to our map, and you can see we have representation from across the country, and we hope to have one day that this map be very, very blue, full of cooperative extension programs that are delivering the NDPP. We do have 4 primary focus areas. We have sub-working groups that help us meet our goals. We have a quality support group that works to develop systems that will support the quality of our extension DPP programs. The quality, as you know, is essential to obtaining and maintaining CDC recognition. We also have been working on some common evaluations, some measures that we will all share, some tools that we can all share so we can combine our data and measure and document our national impact. Medicare reimbursement is something that a lot of us are interested in, and so this is something that's very new to us as Extension. So we do have a group that is working on developing systems that are appropriate for extension to be able to submit health insurance claims, including Medicare, so that we can help each other out as we go through the process of becoming Medicare DPP providers. And then we have a communications subgroup that is helping with getting word out about our group, about our success. For example, presenting at national meetings. Earlier this week, we presented at AADE in Houston, Texas. And we also want to have some common branding and increase our visibility as cooperative extension services nationally, and our strength as a DPP provider. I have my contact information on here, and our website is listed there. You can find other of our participants' contact information on our website. I've also put in a plug for our next webinar, which is coming up in November. And so please, if any of you are in a state that is not listed in as one of our members and you would like to join, even if you're not currently offering the DPP in your state cooperative extension, please let us know. We'd be happy to have you, and we'd be happy to help you get started. So with that, I'd like to pass on to Zena Edwards, who is our first presenter. She is a food and nutrition faculty in Washington State University. She is also a coordinator of a DPP program in Washington State.
Thanks, Vanessa. I'm going to pull up my slides here. And, okay. So thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I was asked to present a little bit about some of our tips for success for initiating behavior change with our diabetes prevention program. And we've been fully recognized for, I'm going to say, about 3 years now. So our program's been around for about 5 years. And really, I need to give credit where credit's due, and this is all what I'm going to present to you first is just wisdom shared by my fantastic lifestyle coach. And she's also a Master Trainer Select. And a lot of it was you know, she really, what I've noticed is it's really intuitive for her and very natural for her to do a lot of these practices. So it's really great to kind of sit down with her and tap into what she's thinking about and what she does, because she's just a very skilled lifestyle coach. But that being said, also remembering that these are skills that can be taught or learned, and so having a good example is really helpful. So we don't have to say, okay, well, there's only one lifestyle coach who can do this. So I was asked to share a little bit about food logs. So this is a struggle for many participants. What I've noticed is sometimes, you know, people think they're going to be judged by what they are writing in their food log, or they're not doing it good enough. So really building up the confidence, especially if people have done a lot of dieting or tried a lot of weight loss programs, or just haven't had success in this area. So really what we try to do is just try to encourage little baby step behaviors. So, and reminding people that it is the #1 predictor of weight loss success in the program. And not just relying on the research base for that, because that's really important to us as extension educators, but Amy sharing, well, what I've seen in the program, so making it a little more personal and localized as far as, you know, I've seen the people who have success in this program track their food. So using both those forms of authority as far as the evidence base and the personal experience. So that's really important. So really leveraging the group dynamics is really important. So I'll also add that Amy gives really good positive feedback. So I think once people know that they are going to be turning in their food logs, that she just tries to give positive feedback at first, not anything too critical. She may ask a few questions, but it really is that, it's kind of using that 5-to-1 ratio, if you've ever heard of that, where it's like 5 positive interactions to 1 more critical or negative. So it's just been played out in lots of relationship situations. So I really see her just naturally doing that. So it's not like she never gives some kind of critical feedback or suggestions, but it's really balanced throughout the whole program on this 5-to-1 ratio, I would say, is what I've observed. Doing a group check-in really helps, an open discussion for problem solving. Asking those who are successful to share with the group, and asking them at weigh-in. Amy has lots of one-on-one discussions with people as they're doing their weigh-in, and they talk a little bit about, I would say that's really a key critical interaction, is having that one-to-one during the weigh-in, and just not a lot of discussion, but really personalized contact with the participant. But then asking, you're really successful at this, would you share with the group how you're doing it? So really having the people in the group sharing that experience. And then, asking group members to inspire others with their own success and empathy. I've also seen used a really good technique of, okay, well, everyone who lost weight this week also tracked their food. So it's really always tying that behavior to the success of the program and keeping it really focused on what the goals of the program are and the behaviors that really can be emphasized. Also, so it's also individualization is also useful. So just having people write down foods, it's kind of meeting people where they're at. So some of us are trained as dietitians, so we're like, okay, it's really easy for us to do all of this, and remembering it's a really new behavior for some people. So just having people write down foods without the portion sizes, calories, or fat grams, just getting that behavior started. Then also asking, what do you think you can do? What is achievable? Do you think you could do 3 days? Do you think you could just do the weekend? So once again, it's taking those baby steps and getting that behavior initiated. And then just different options for food tracking. We have paper and pencil trackers people can use, an online app, a phone app. So just trying to be really flexible on what people need so that they can feel successful at it. Acknowledging any small successes, and really, I think, too, validating and affirming that it isn't easy to do. We quite often in the program say the success in this program is simple, but it's not always easy. And I think it really helps to point that out. Like, that's why this is a year-long program. We're here for lifestyle change. We're here to make long-term changes, not just short-term.
Zana, real quick,
Yeah.
wondering if you could put your PowerPoint in presenter view?
Oh, I thought I did. I'm sorry. Let me do that.
Oh, no, not from beginning. From current slide, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Is it not?
I guess that's not what I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, I am seeing it.
Maybe, do you have 2 monitors, Zena?
I do. Oh my goodness.
Just swap. Yes, swap. If you go up to the one that's okay. If it doesn't work, that's okay. We just move forward.
Well, let's do this. I wonder if I can.
I think if you go to the screen with the big that's showing it in presenter, up at the top, you should get a swap view, and then it'll just swap it to your other screen.
So I apologize, folks. We practiced all of this, and I didn't have this issue. So I should have a swap view. I don't see a swap view.
That's okay. You could also just make this one bigger on your screen. It's okay.
That's what I'll do. I will
Yeah.
make it really big.
There you go. Perfect.
I'll make it really big. Sorry, folks. Let's do this. I'll take away the notes.
Good, good, good.
Okay, there we go. You can see all my upcoming notes too. Okay.
Well, you can X out.
What's that?
You could X out of that, and somebody in the chat box put a comment that says go to the bottom of the screen. So I don't know if that would help.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't see anything bottom of screen. Is it that?
No, so there's a little, if you want to close these out, Zena, up next to the picture, see the picture up there? There's a little X. You hit that X, it'll close that. There, yeah, go to the left a little bit. Right by
where there's an X up.
Well,
right there,
X?
right there, right there, right there. That's it.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
and you can do the same on the other side as well if you want to.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, that's much easier for everyone to look at. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so, and then also physical activity. We ask people to start tracking physical activity with their first session. So I think with a couple of the approved curricula, they don't do that for a couple of sessions, and we found it was just hard to get people to start doing that. So we start with food tracking and the physical activity with the first session. They can log anything done for more than 10 minutes, so it doesn't have to be that full 30 minutes. And again, that really positive feedback and acknowledgement of any success, verbal progress checks during the sessions, and then just letting participants learn from and inspire each other. So having an opportunity for sharing in the group or problem solving is really key, really for any of these behaviors that we're trying to promote. So I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, and then just for attendance, I think making sure that you have that group cohesion is really important, which is going to be the next slide, but really providing opportunities for attendance and the connection. So again, and really asking too, a lot of this too is asking people before they even get into the program if they're willing to do these things. So I had a call yesterday from a woman who was interested in being really clear and upfront on this is what's expected for the program, these behaviors. We expect you to come to each class or do a makeup. We expect you to weigh in weekly. We expect you to keep those food logs, track physical activity, and then not just telling them that we will expect those things, but specifically asking, are you willing to do these things? And having people verbalize that really helps them commit to the program. But I think that readiness for the program is really key. So letting people know they're missed when they didn't attend, so not in a shameful way, but just, you know, like, oh, we missed you and you're an important person in the group. Provide opportunities for makeup sessions. So, you know, sometimes Amy will reschedule sessions if there's a holiday or lots of people are going to be gone. So just making it really inclusive. And then also too, we have used Zoom on occasion. If people are going to be traveling and they still want to join the group, and that's worked out really well too. I wouldn't say it's used a lot, but it is an option. And then creating that group cohesion. So having a one-on-one conversation with the participant before the program begins. So they, you know, a lot of this is really new to people. They're scared. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know what to expect. So having that one-on-one conversation is really important. And then if it's a pretty large group, pairing up during introductions for first sessions. And then small groups take time for all to introduce themselves. It's really important to spend this time to create group cohesion, and I can't emphasize that enough. I know sometimes the participants want to jump into the content. We want to jump into the content, but the group dynamics is really important, and then that commitment to the group and accountability to group. So we really look at it as the facilitator, the coach is there to, you know, for course corrections is needed, but we're really there to provide the opportunity for that group interaction to take place in a positive way. And pairing up for groups of 2 to 3 for the goal accountability. So instead of it always being a didactic approach, sharing email and phone number contacts if the group's okay with it. So we really have to feel out if the group wants to do that. And then lots of group discussions and just really throwing things back out to the group as far as, well, what do you do or who would like to share? So, you know, I really think we just follow what the program says to do. You know, as far as fidelity to group dynamics and spending time when we're doing the master training too and making sure we talk about that it's the facilitation, the coaching, that's really key. And then setting and meeting SMART goals. So it's really important to make time for that at the end of the session. So, and then making time for check-in the next session. So sometimes discussions can run a little bit long or the content, but it's really important that people are making time for that action plan and goal setting. having people verbalize the goal to the group is really key, and then acknowledge progress and success, and focus on the short-term goals, so weekly, bi-weekly. So basically it's written into the curriculum, just take time to do that, and then sometimes creating longer 3-month goals. And once again, flexibility is key, is what is doable for people. So even if, you know, midweek people are thinking, oh, I can't do this, like, okay, change it to something that you can do. It's kind of a fallback plan. So people are excited and ambitious when they come in, and that's great, but we want to make sure that things are achievable for them so that they'll stay connected. So, you know, all of these things, like I said, it's pretty much in the curriculum. It's very intuitive for people who have influence characteristics, and I would say, just watching Amy, that she does. She's just like a natural influencer. And so I just kind of looked at what she says she does and kind of pulled out some patterns from influence science and persuasion communication, because that's my interest. And so sometimes this was a research study done not with diabetes prevention, but it was students needing to raise their grades. But sometimes people say, well, people don't want to share their goal, or it's private, but we're not going to see behavior change if people don't share. So if people write down and share, it's much more powerful. So this is showing with a no goal, 14% of the group achieved their goal. Private goal, it was the same. So goal setting is really powerful when we're having that public goal of sharing it with others. And it can just be one other person because you have that accountability. Also, just this balancing of cohesion with content. So certainly we don't want to just have a support group where things are just going, you know, off the rails, but building that cohesion is important. So that's the job of the facilitators, to make sure the content's on track, but that it's also balanced out with that cohesion for the group. And then the authority is really important. So, you know, the influence principle of authority, both subjective and objective. So, Amy's just very skilled at this, balancing out those two. And the difference is, so you can have a position of authority, that's the objective authority. So it comes with titles, experience, that's like our titles for extension, or I'm a lifestyle coach. And then the authority of experience is just more subjective. And that's really, it's based on personal experience. People want to know, somebody else in my shoes has dealt with this, worked through it. So that's where it's really important to let the, you know, a lot of times, you know, we know what the answer is and we can just tell the group, and it's really, you know, holding back on that and throwing it back out to the group of, has anybody else experienced this, and what did you do, and what kind of success did you have, or what did you do to work through this, and empowering them rather than us just giving the answers. So that's really cute. And I'd also say too, you know, your characteristics of a lifestyle coach are really important. So competence is important, of course, but likability is really key. And that's what I see is you know, really liking the participants and wanting to see them be successful. And I don't know if it's sustainable or realistic for everyone to make as many personal connections as Amy does. She's more of an extrovert. I'm more of an introvert. That's why she does the coaching stuff. But she just really knows her participants and is really, you know, she lets them have cell phone numbers and emails, and, you know, she's much more available than I probably would be. But I'll also say you could probably do, you know, 80% of that and still get really good outcomes. So that likability is key. So there's been a lot of research done on competence and likability, and really aiming for that rock star of like, okay, really strong competence as far as knowing the curriculum, following the curriculum, and then just lots of likability, which is just connecting with people on a personal level, understanding that they may be struggling, recognizing their success, and then, like I said, that 5-to-1 ratio, because we want to make sure we're correcting people if they're off track, or if we see something that's a problem, but we need to be kind of building up that bank account as far as establishing relationships too. So, and that's what I have. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Zena.
Yeah.
I will move right along to to Nikki. And again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. Nikki Johnson is a community health and nutrition specialist at North Dakota State University and University of Minnesota Extension programs. And she's here to share about her successes in helping her participants with meeting their goals for the program.
Well, thank you for that. I want to just double check before I start. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
In a full screen. Wonderful. Okay, well, great. So as Vanessa mentioned, I'm Nikki Johnson and I work in 2 states. So I span North Dakota and Minnesota. And I have been involved in the diabetes prevention program as a lifestyle coach, a master trainer select, as well as a program coordinator. So I'm really excited to share just a few ways that we have found to build a quality program where participants not only want to come back, but they are making changes. So Zena mentioned this right off the bat, so I'm actually really excited. Zena, I didn't get to hear her presentation before, but we're on the same page, so that's really exciting. But it's really important for participants to feel a sense of connection to their coach and to their group, and I believe that can start even before a program begins. So making a connection before that first session is really key for us and something we found to be really useful. So rather than a participant just getting an automated email saying, hey, thanks for joining the program, make a phone call. Send a personalized email with the lifestyle coach's photo attached so they know who they're looking for on that first day. Because it's really going to start that relationship building as well as that level of comfort with your participants before they ever walk into the door. To continue on with that, we, after our first contact, hold a session 0, and I'm sure many of you have heard of this before, but this is a session that happens before the program begins and is really just giving the ground rules and the basics of what a participant can expect. So usually we hold it in a room that's going to be exactly where our sessions are held. We typically have it 1 week before the actual program begins, and it allows us to have a little getting to know you time. So rather than somebody walking in and saying, hey, I'm your lifestyle coach, hop on the scale, that can be a little bit intimidating. So instead, we invite them to come to the space. Hey, this is where we'll be meeting. I'm your coach, have a little conversation, and then getting to know their colleagues, or excuse me, not their colleagues, their participant, their group a little bit as well. So we do a lot of introductions. We talk about the program, and then we get into expectations of the program itself. So to do this, we have actually created a participant agreement that kind of guides us through all of our expectations. We talk about what participants can expect from their lifestyle coach, and then we also talk about what we expect from them throughout the next year. So writing in a food log every day. We tell them most of the time while they're going to hate their food logs and they're probably going to curse their coach a little bit through that first week or two, ultimately I think we tell them that it's going to be the piece that they learn the most from and probably appreciate the most. The participant agreement also goes into things like participation. You're going to get out what you put in. You're going to do better if you attend more sessions. And so the participation agreement really does kind of guide everybody through expectations of the entire year. We also address makeup sessions within the participant agreement, which is really good to do. We put it on the participant themselves. Hey, we know life happens and you're going to miss class, but it's your responsibility to let us know so that we can make sure you are caught up on all the content that you need to be successful. And then finally, we have them do a readiness for change. And I, as the lifestyle coach, have never actually even looked at them. It's really more as a self-reflection type of tool, trying to get the participant to really think about whether or not a year-long lifestyle change program is right for them at this point in life. And when we started implementing this session 0 across both of our states, actually, we noticed that participants were more committed and they were sticking out the program throughout the entire year rather than seeing as much drop off. Now the next piece is those pesky little food journals, but the part I guess I totally love the most. And as Zena mentioned, we know that that self-monitoring is the #1 predictor of weight loss. So it's imperative for our participants to track. So what we ask our lifestyle coaches to do is to provide various ideas of trackers they can use, but we also kind of prepare them with a couple of different lines or ideas as to why a person might choose one tracker over the other. We know tracking is a struggle, so which one's going to be the right fit? So an example might be if you've got a smartphone, maybe the participant will want to check out MyFitnessPal because it's got a large database of foods. There's a place where you can enter homemade recipes and even has a barcode scanner, but just be sure to look out for the foods with the green check mark because that means they've been verified, right? Giving them those little tips and tricks that they can share with our participants. We also encourage our coaches to bring in a few options if they're able to. So in North Dakota, we have pocket-sized food trackers, paper trackers that we have available to our participants, but we also might print off the single sheet food logs from T2 so that there's a few different options for participants to choose from. And just because we know that there will be struggles with food tracking, we've really trained our coaches to help identify issues that a participant might have and also to be flexible. So of course we always want to see that complete tracker, but maybe we need participant X to start with 2 days. You know, track down 1 weekday's worth of food and 1 weekend day, and we'll build up from there. And it might just be that traditional tracking isn't the best option. So instead, our coaches know that there are visual options available for tracking, such as photos sent via email, or even using some type of low literacy tracker, which I will show you in just a second. But before I do, I did want to share just 2 final thoughts on trackers that I think has been incredibly beneficial to myself as well as our coaches. If you can provide any type of motivational interviewing training for them, I think it really helps them to understand how they can best respond in a tracker. It helps them to really focus on those positive pieces because food trackers are scary. It's scary to share everything you've eaten in an entire day. So focusing on the positive and then just being able to ask better questions. So instead of trying to provide that little nugget of advice, it might be asking the right question so that your participant can figure out the best answer or the best solution. And the second little piece is simply if you're able to purchase a book like The Calorie King, do it. Just because when participants need to look up the fat and the calories, it improves their awareness as to what's in their food. And in my experience, it gets them looking at food labels more often. And if you're looking at food labels, if you know what's in your food, you're going to be able to make better, more informed choices and really see those changes. Now this is the low literacy food tracker that we have used, and it was actually created by one of our Minnesota educators, and it's really proven to be really versatile. Initially it was created for somebody who might struggle with reading or writing, but we've been able to use it with people who might have arthritis, so the difficulty writing things down, and also those that have a language barrier. So you're able to swap out pictures and choose maybe a more culturally appropriate food, but it's been really beneficial for a variety of groups. The only caveats I would want to point out with this tool is to make sure you really go through portion sizes and measuring with your participants when you are passing this out or using this tool. Now, just like with food journals, our coaches work really close with our participants on tracking physical activity and finding what is best for them. And what we found to be our biggest piece to improving physical activity is by making it fun and making it as easy as possible. You know, we know nobody's going to continue to do an activity if they're miserable. So we've kind of made it our coach's job to help find enjoyable activities, if you will. So we have them look up local events and create lists for participants. You can see So Fargo, North Dakota, very, very cold during the winter times. Curling is a fun activity. Not something maybe you've tried before, but it could be the one little piece that sparks the excitement over physical activity itself. And I really like the different lists of community events because it encourages variety and also helps the people to realize that activity isn't a one-size-fits-all. We've also had a few like rock star coaches that have done above and beyond. So they might have worked with a community partner that has said they would hold a fitness class outside of the scheduled session. So we've got session 5 is move your muscles, and following that class session, we've got a Zumba instructor coming in to do a dance class with you. If you want to stay, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But I tell you what, you can really build a fun, cohesive group when you're all sweating together. One other way we've made the activity a little bit easier is simply by holding our sessions at a fitness center. They're just going to be our host, or having a fitness center provide a discounted membership to participants. And if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, this is also a low literacy log for physical activity, but I actually like to give it to all of my participants simply because of the visuals on the left-hand side of that tracker showing vigorous, moderate, or light activity, just to get that in their heads. And then challenges. Now when I'm talking challenges, they don't really mean barriers, I mean contests. And it's really because we know that people, sometimes it's just like that little thing to get them going, that little spark of enthusiasm to remind people that being healthy and making changes doesn't have to be painful, and it's something that you can do lifelong. So to do that, we try to focus all of our contests around the struggles of the groups. You'd be really listening to what your group challenges are. An example, last week I had a group talking about not having enough time for activity and life being really stressful, and somehow yoga came up. So we had a contest. So for every day that you did yoga, you got your name put into the hat for a prize drawing. Something a little bit fun, but it might actually make someone realize like, oh, I really like yoga. Not only does it reduce my stress, but it gets my body moving as well. Another piece to creating a solid group and keep them coming back is a constant line of communication, and doing it in a variety of ways. So our coaches do phone calls. If you're missing classes, you're probably going to get a phone call from me. Sending out emails throughout the week or the months. Not only sending out a reminder, but maybe it's a group check-in. Maybe it's a one-on-one touch base with a participant who's had a specific struggle. Or maybe it's just a really funny meme that I want to share for the day. We've also recently started utilizing videos for some of our makeup sessions, and I have to say, while we've only done a few, so far participants have really enjoyed that as a kickoff to the conversation that they might have missed. And just finally, with the communication piece, we do have a couple of educators, again, those rock stars, who have created a closed Facebook group to keep a constant line of communication open with their participants. They're the administrator to start off with, and then they also add a peer administrator at some point in time, but where they can share content, they can share struggles, and just really build that group. And then finally, partnering with other local agencies. I think this is one of the reasons that North Dakota and Minnesota have been able to be quality programs and sustainable, and it's because we just aren't doing it alone. We use our partners to be co-facilitators, to help to divvy up work and costs. As I mentioned, maybe it's using a fitness center to host a site, but just making it easier for the participant to succeed. And with that, I know there's probably a million other things I could share with you, but I will stop and just give you my contact information so that if you wanted to discuss anything further, you can reach me.
Thank you so much, Nikki. That was great. I love seeing the very specific tips. That's so helpful to see what you guys are doing and what Washington State is doing as well. Let's move right along to our next speaker. This next speaker is Judith McDivitt, who is the Health, Education, and Promotion Team Lead at the CDC's Division of Diabetes Translation. And what she does there is managing and evaluating projects that use marketing approaches to change behavior to prevent type 2 diabetes or to manage diabetes. Welcome, Jude.
Okay, thank you everyone. And great presentations. I was taking a lot of notes. So I want to talk to you about a tool that we developed to try to keep people in the program. As you all probably know, a key part of the National DPP is the Lifestyle Change Program, and it's a year long, and that tends to make people a little nervous. And we have had a lot of feedback over the years that programs are having trouble keeping people for the entire year. So we, and it's true, analysis of the data from programs for 2 years, well, no, actually it's for 5 years, showed a continuous drop-off throughout the year, but there is a big drop after the end of the weekly sessions, which I think probably doesn't surprise anybody, but at least we verified it. And we also found that Caucasians and older adults had higher rates of retention. They were less likely to drop out, and there was no difference by gender. So we wanted to develop something to help the lifestyle change programs keep people longer in the programs. We started with a lot of formative research to really understand the situation, to identify solutions, and in the end, we came up with 11 web-based interactive modules that coaches could send to their participants after various sessions. And these were developed to reinforce the curriculum content, so they were tailored to specific sessions. They also offered motivational messaging and practical tips. We have some pledges to strengthen commitment, and we provided reminders and encouragement. Now, people can enter stuff into these, but I think it's important to note that the tool itself does not retain anybody's information. So it's not a situation where the CDC is going to end up with your data. So what we have currently are modules for weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they follow the Prevent T2 curriculum. And 6. There are 2 pledges at that point, and then we have a few before, during, and after the end of the weekly sessions. So what we currently have available on our National DPP website are these modules. For week 1 is the introduction, and there's a pledge that goes with that. The Get Active and the Track Activity sessions, the eating sessions and the tracking food, and then the second pledge. And then we have one around Get Support, Stay Motivated, and Check In, and a pledge for the rest of the program. We also developed a number of guidance documents. I'll talk about them a little bit as well. So the blue are the actual modules for the content, and the green are the pledges. So we did a demonstration project with 9 lifestyle change programs. It's actually still going on to test this, and they provided enormous amounts of help. And basically what we learned is they like it. They didn't like the name because we were calling it the National DPP Retention Tool, which they thought was kind of dull, and they wanted more. They wanted more modules, particularly at key dropout points that they were seeing. And then they also wanted more guidance documents, and they made some specific suggestions for that. So we did come up with a new name, which we also ran by these 9 programs. It's the Personal Success Tool. And the two guidance documents that we had at the start were the user guide for coaches and the planning worksheet, but they also wanted two additional ones. I'll talk about these in more detail. So the user guide is, all of these are very short because this is a pretty straightforward intervention. There are modules, you send them to your participants in between, and they do them. And we're hoping, and actually our demonstration project participants have said, yeah, this is pretty easy to use. We don't need a lot of guidance. But it does say what the tool is, what the steps are for using it, and how to introduce it to participants. The planning worksheet has turned out to be pretty important. It helps people plan when to send them out. And again, because this is based on the Prevent T2 curriculum and not everybody uses that curriculum, we have identified, so here's what the topic is. It goes with this Prevent T2 topic, but there's a place for them to identify where they want to put it. So here's an example, part of one of these. So session 1 in Prevent T2 is Introduction to the Program, and there's a little place where they can identify that they sent the link or not. Tells you what's in it, so if you aren't using Prevent T2, you can tailor it to what you do have, and also provides some optional messages that you can send either by text or email, and the link to the specific module. So we have one of these for each piece of that. We also, though, were asked to provide some talking points that lifestyle change coaches could use when they introduced the retention modules to their classes. So we have a number of talking points here. They focus on the benefits of the tool, that it's pretty easy to use. Suggests actually that they could demonstrate a module in the class to help people see what we're talking about, and provides a number of points of how to describe the personal success tool, benefits, what participants can expect. The other piece that they wanted is they wanted something to give to the participants. So if they introduced it to them, they wanted them to have something to take home so that they could keep up on it. So we are actually in the process right now of making these more colorful and testing them again with the same group of people. So some of them are up on the website and others are going up on the website shortly. So the next steps are, we were asked for more modules, and we are in the process of hiring a company to do more modules, and also updating the guidance documents, making them more colorful. But we also are conducting a field study with the YUSA to examine impact. We got a lot of feedback about how the organizations used it and what they wanted us to change. Most of the comments being too many words, not enough white space. But we want to get a better sense by doing this project with the Y. And some of the modules that we're thinking of including, and again, it's based on the feedback that we've had, are managing stress, coping with triggers, when weight loss stalls, getting enough sleep, getting back on track. So I want to show you a few of the modules, or maybe one, depending on how much time we have. And I'm also going to show you how you can get to them. So if you go to CDC's National DPP homepage, and you'll see the URL above, but it's cdc.gov diabetes prevention, and you go down to tools and resources. This is the easiest way to find this. And then you go down information for lifestyle change program providers. It's got the curriculum and the handouts, but it also has, and I'm thinking we're probably going to change this name to Personal Success Tool, but that's the link for the retention tool. And I will show you this first one. So this is the link is going to be sent to the participants, and this is the one they suggested send it maybe 4 days after the class. If you send it immediately, people may not look at it, or they kind of need a boost kind of in the middle. So that was one thing that was really, really helpful. But it's a positive comment from the beginning. Congratulations on the first step, and are you ready? So they click, I'm ready. Stresses you won't be doing this alone. You're going to be working with other people. So you click on the next. It works and it's worth it. It varies with age, so here are the possibilities. If you're 60 or over, you can reduce your risk by 71%. If you're under 60, you reduce it by 58%. So this is just some knowledge stuff. Showing up is half the battle and leads to the biggest results. So again, we have this focus throughout of keep coming, come back, keep coming. So here's one of those messages. The more you put in, the more you get. So CDC research shows that every weekly session you attend puts you one step closer to your goal. So you have the opportunity to say, well, if you went to more than 17, you lost this much weight. But if you only went to a few sessions, you lost a lot less. And you can go back and forth between them. Here are some videos. I think we want to start using more videos. I'm not going to show them because that will take up too much time. And then this is the end. You are ready. If you show up each week, work with your coach, start making real changes, et cetera, you start right now, take the pledge. So this one links directly to a pledge. And here's the pledge. Commit to yourself, commit to your goals, commit to a healthier lifestyle. So are you ready to change your life again? So let's make a pledge. So you put in your name, you say how much weight you want to lose, and this, of course, would have come from the first class. And I don't know why this is doing this. Okay. So then it's trying to get at kind of motivational stuff and pieces that can help people really think about. So, you know, what am I doing this for? And trying to get them to focus on some of that. So what's your source of inspiration? So I want to fit into my clothes better. So looking in the mirror would be my inspiration. Great. So start by identifying some clear changes. So what specific actions will you take to get started? We've given them a number of options, and attend my meeting every week is at the top. Find physical activities I like, and then they can write down one more. So this one is actually real for me. Eloise is an extremely cute dog. Way to go. So here is my pledge. It has populated my pledge. I can see it on the screen. If I want to fix something because I don't like it, I can go back, but if you're ready, then you click on it. Here's your goal. So make it official. Sign it, share it, remember it. Put it up on your fridge, put it up on a bulletin board. So you can either save it or you can look at it and print it. And again, your data are not being sent to CDC. You know, once you get out of this, it's, unless you've saved it in your own, it's gone. So here's the little piece that, you know, I, Jude, make this pledge to myself, my goal, I want to fit better into my clothes, I'm going to attend meetings every week, etc. So I don't know how much time we've got, but they all are very similar to this. I don't know if they're, oh, we've only got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I
So
think we've only got about 5 minutes.
I would recommend that you go to the website and look at all the other ones. So thank you.
That was really nice.
That was great because it tied right back into what Zena had said about sharing. You know, if you share your goals and your action plan, you're more likely to stick to them. So that actually tied it back really neatly.
No, actually, I was thinking as everybody else was speaking, whoa, we didn't collaborate on this and everything fit together. Yeah, nice.
There's some universality in the approach, I think. You know.
All right, so let me see if we have questions. I saw there was a question from Carlin actually about if this worked on a mobile device, on a tablet or on an iPhone for the tools from the CDC.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be important.
Yes.
And I actually did. I opened it up on my phone and I could see them pretty well. So it works really well there. There was a question about the trackers that Nikki had mentioned, if those can be made available, if we can distribute them. Another place we can post them is on our website. We intend to have our website be a place where we can have resources to share as well. So Nikki responded that yes. So we can, you can find those. You hopefully will be able to find those soon on our website together with this webinar, and they present the slides. We also will be sharing as a PDF. And let me see if there are any other questions come in. I had a question for Zena and Nikki. Is I really like what you talked about slowing it down and easing into the logging of the food and of the physical activity. I wonder, do you guys, other than the challenge that Nikki mentioned where they have the prizes, do you guys use any incentives? Do you give anything to your participants?
We don't use any incentives. I think what we've found is that, the positive feedback and the recognition in the group is really good incentive. I think sometimes we forget that can be an incentive in itself, just being recognized for what you're doing right, yeah, and for small successes, and especially after you've made connection with the lifestyle coach and the people. Yeah, we don't use any incentives for our program. I kind of just have a philosophy of that. I mean, I know people really like them, but, to me, it's just another thing to have to organize and spend money on. Also, there's some research to show that sometimes, not always, because, I love what Nikki was sharing about having challenges in that. I think that's a little bit different than show up and we give you a water bottle. But I'm trying to reduce the amount of waste in the world, so I don't like to contribute to that. And then also too, yeah, there's some research to show that internal motivation is stronger if you're getting that verbal praise and feedback. So that's just kind of a philosophy we have with our program. Not that it doesn't work well in other places, but we haven't found it necessary.
No, and someone else in my division has been doing a study of incentives.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, it's
And?
not finished yet. I agree with Senna.
Perfect. That's great feedback.
I mean, sometimes,
Great, thank you.
Sometimes they do work, but the idea that in particularly monetary incentives. So
Yeah.
And so this is Nikki, and we actually don't give a whole lot of incentives just for like I mentioned the challenges. But one thing our groups have done is do some type of visual form of praise. So it might be like a thermometer where they color in the chart of pounds lost or number of physical activity minutes completed for the year. And it's for the entire group, so it's not always the singular individualized praise, but it's group praise of, hey, look at all that you've accomplished.
That's a great idea. I like that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We are right at 11 my time, so 1 p.m. Eastern. I appreciate everybody attending, and as Carly mentioned, there will be a survey that will pop up on your screen as you exit the webinar. If you would kindly take time to answer the survey, it really helps us determine what other webinars we should plan for in the future. As we mentioned, we do have an upcoming webinar in November about the DPP, delivering the DPP to a diverse audience. And also, we will send out a link to the webinar after today in an email to you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you to our panelists. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and it's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Judith, Zena, and Nikki. This was very informative.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I took a lot of notes. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Great. Bye, everyone.